And I'm going to introduce now to you Lisa Bain with Lindblad Expeditions.
Firstly, thank you so much for coming out. Lindblad, no heckling. Lindblad Expeditions is all about taking you to the rare, the wild, the places that are hard to reach and hard to see unless you are getting there on an intimate, small-scaled, state-of-the-art expedition vessel. And we've been around for over 52 years. And before we get into that history, I'd like to just share a little bit of a touch of what we do. So this all started with a pretty remarkable gentleman by the name of Lars Erik Lindblad. And Lars Erik Lindblad was really a explorer in his own right. And he was going out into the world and he was finding these amazing places. And he very quickly realized back before the 60s that if we didn't care for them, if we didn't educate people, we would lose them very, very quickly. And so he started Lindblad Expeditions, at the time Special Expeditions, because he believed if you take educated people, you excite them, you impassion them, they will return as a voice for the preservation of those places. And that's the reason we go where we go every week when we step off around the world, to educate, to impassion, and hopefully have you come back and help us ensure these places are here for the next generation. And his son Sven Lindblad has been at the helm of the company now for 32 years, hard to believe it, 32 years. And one of the really key alliances that Sven has set up for us is our alliance with the National Geographic Society. Now, all of you, I'm sure, have some of those great magazines somewhere in your house with the golden rectangle on it that none of us seem to be able to throw away. I can tell you the whole set of them comes in a box DVD set about this big now, if you do want to discard all of those paper copies and recycle them. But we set up this alliance because the National Geographic Society is sending scientists and researchers out into the field. We have our ships going to these same remarkable places, so it just was a perfect fit for us to carry their scientists into the field, to have access to that data and also have access to some of their amazing speakers. And so Lindblad Expeditions owns and operates the ships, but we have the great honour of carrying their people out into the world to come back and help educate as well. So for us, the expedition teams are really the core and the heart and soul of what we do. These are men and women who, yes, they have PhDs, yes, they've done their studies in the places we go, but the most important thing is that they're great people to sit across the dinner table and speak with. They're not going to come up to you and go, well, you know, today we're going to be seeing some kleptoparasitic birds. And you're sitting there for the rest of the dinner going, what the hell is a kleptoparasitic bird, right? You want someone who's going to sit across from you and say, well, you know, we're going to see some birds that they have kleptoparasitic behaviour, and what that means is they'll steal from each other. So tomorrow when we're out in the Galapagos, when you see a frigate sweep over here and steal a branch, and this guy steals a branch, that's kleptoparasitic behaviour. And so you get to understand it. So when you see it in action, it makes a lot more sense, and it creates a lot more interest when you're out in the field. And so I really think it comes down to the good graces of the men and women that we have a great honour to travel with on our ships. We truly believe that the next generation is really important. We want to make sure that our kids that travel with us are educated and excited, so our teams are all trained in working with our younger guests, but we also have reintroduced our Global Explorers program in this past year in conjunction with National Geographic Education. And so as our children come on board, they get this amazing field notebook, which has scientific research and things that we're going to take them out in the field and do, like plankton draws, so they can look at them under the big microscope. They learn how to drive a Zodiac and scare the bejeebies out of all of us when they're driving us around. But we get them out in the field so they truly understand the scope of what they're seeing.
Having the opportunity to show them how the world works.
I get amazed with everything I see.
This is the best way to learn. It's the best classroom in the world.
How to go outside of your comfort zone.
So I think it's a great program. To do it all, always with very, very fun activities.
This is a plankton net. and we're about to catch plankton.
Anyone know what plankton is? They're actually free-floating organisms.
It gives them a great opportunity to understand everything about the web of life, and at the same time they're doing all of that while having fun.
We're living in a new world, and we want you to be the next ambassadors of the Galapagos Islands.
So our Global Explorers program is on all of our trips in the Galapagos and Alaska. We'll soon be on Baja. But it means that our younger guests get to go out and do their own exploration with our team as well as joining their parents during the day and night. So technology for us has always been a biggie. And we've invested a lot of money because we believe anybody that is on our ships, all of our guests, should better understand that marine biodiversity beneath us. They should all have access to it. And so we have some pretty cool tools at our disposal on our ships. We have hydrophones so you can hear whale song, particularly in a place like Alaska where you have such amazing whale numbers. You have underwater divers and photographers that allow us to capture footage. We get to bring this back every night to the ship and talk about what have we seen, what have we experienced today. We have ROVs that will take you down to 1,000 feet, not you, but the camera's down, and bring back amazing footage. And we can sit upstairs and watch that live. And so that opens up that amazing world beneath the ship, because 50% of the experience is beneath us. So if we can't see that, we've missed a huge opportunity. The other thing is that we want to get you up close to the wildlife. Wildlife is not animatronic. No one should ever stand up here and promise you you are going to see this animal on this part of the trip. Wildlife is wildlife. But after 52 years of experience, we know where to go. We have that knowledge to be able to access and to hopefully get you to see exactly what it is you want to experience. This is a 40-foot minke whale. We call them stinky minkies because when you're that close to them, they are pretty stinky. But this particular minke whale played with this couple for an hour one day. They just glided alongside the minke whale. He'd come up on the other side. This is the type of experience no one can plan for. Okay? This is what makes a trip truly special. And the way we get you into all of these remote places is via our zodiacs. If there are docks and electricity and they're selling tchotchkes, there's a pretty good bet that we're not going there. Okay? We want to get you to the places that other folks aren't going to. That's what we're all about. We want to show you the rare and the wild. And we also have an open bridge policy. So for anyone who's a boater, loves to get out there on the ocean, this is the best seat in the house. And I know there's a few folks here tonight that will be traveling with us soon. Take advantage of this any time of the day or night to go up and sit with the captain and the team, understand how we traverse these amazing oceans. It's just a great addition to the experience when you're with us. Add to that our photography program. This is Flip Nicholin from the National Geographic, or my favourite photo called the Spit on a Lens. This was taken in South Georgia, but on our two flagships, the Orion and the Explorer, you have a National Geographic photographer in residence. And their entire job is not to get their best photos, but to help you get the best photography of your life. And also on those ships, we now have a B&H photo locker, which means that you can go and borrow equipment. You've always wanted to try that fantastic new big zoom lens or a mirrorless camera. You can check it out for the day, take it out and use it. So that's on the two flagships. On all of our other ships, we have a Lindblad certified National Geographic photographer. Only difference is they have not been featured in the pages of the National Geographic magazine. And the key thing is that we have everything from $20,000 camera rigs with people down to cell phones. So we have cell phone classes as well, because there's a lot you can do with digital photography now. So the type of people who travel with us, it runs the gamut. We are not the kind of thing you can put in a square box and say, okay, it's people of this age. We go from the very young to multi-generational families to the very young at heart, and everything in between. We have solo guests, we have a wonderful share program. If you want to get to meet someone new, ladies, you get to travel with ladies. Gentlemen, you get to travel with gentlemen. But it is a great way to experience the planet. And actually, I'll tell you a little story. When we first started back in '66, we took the very first trip to Antarctica of any company in the world. In '66, when Lars Erik led that trip, 62% of the people that travel with him were women. And you think of the time back in 66, that was pretty groundbreaking, right? So, and they chose to go to Antarctica, which was pretty cool. So how do we do it? We do it on really cool, state-of-the-art expedition vessels. Now, just because it has that word expedition in it doesn't mean it's granola. Okay? Sometimes when you say that expedition word, people go, ooh, I'm not sure if I'm up to expedition. Expeditionary travel just means that we have the ability to get you off the grid to places that other folks cannot get their ships into because of the size. It doesn't mean you're giving up on having great service and great food and amazing opportunities to get out. And every now and then there'll be a Zodiac come around the corner when you're kayaking and they'll have brandy or hot chocolate or croissant or, you know, we like to be a little pampered too. So all of that is a part of the experience. So let's go to the Galapagos first. I know there's some folks, I think, has anyone here been to the Galapagos? Yep. It is one of the most spectacular places on Earth for that up-close wildlife experience. And we've been going there since '67. We were the very first company there. Lars Erik Lindblad helped to establish the national park system in the Galapagos. And if you're going today, you're experiencing a much different place than you would have even 30 years ago, because of the amount of non-endemic species that we've all helped to remove from the islands. And so a lot of the donkeys and the pigs and the goats that had been dropped off by the Spaniards, we've been able to eradicate a lot of those, which means the giant tortoises are now coming back. So you're actually seeing an amazing example of how we can actually do good and reverse the damage that we've done to a place. And for kids, that is a really important lesson, because often we're only talking about the things we're doing wrong. This is where we've done right. So the Galapagos is located 600 nautical miles off the coast of Ecuador. You fly out of Miami, just down the road here. You fly down into Guayaquil or Quito. We have you overnight. We transfer you to the charter plane. Next day, you're out on the ship and you are off exploring. And this is all about access and up-close experiences with wildlife. This little guy here is called Super Diego. Some of you might remember Lonesome George. Okay, so Lonesome George was a giant tortoise. He was the last of his particular line of giant tortoise. Lonesome George did not like the ladies, so he never reproduced, which was sad. So Super Diego here had been captured many, many years before and taken to the San Diego Zoo. They decided to send him back to the Galapagos, and this is where you realize it's all in a name. Super Diego is a breeding fool. He single-handedly is helping us to replace the giant tortoise population. He has been very helpful. But so when you go to the Charles Darwin Centre, and actually this week was Darwin's birthday, so it's kind of fun that I'm here this evening. But when you go to the Charles Darwin Centre, you get to understand how we're working to replenish the stocks of giant tortoise, and you do get to see them on some of the islands. But the Galapagos, and I'll explain here, each of these islands is volcanic and very different. Some are dry, very desert-like. Some are very green and lush. Others are red sand beaches. Some are just black ribbon lava. Every island is completely different. And that means that every island has its own wildlife that's particular to it. We have a great bird called a Floriana mockingbird, which is a little bird about this big, and they love to chew on your shoelaces. That's how close they'll get to you. Or tiny little yellow warblers that'll be as close as that table. I mean, wildlife is not concerned about you. They're not scared of you. It's one of the few places you'll get the chance to swim with penguins because of those cold tides that come alongside the Galapagos and give them the nutrients they need. To be able to get in amongst those little Sally Lightfoot crabs, or to go swimming with sea lions, or have this kind of experience just sitting quietly on a beach. There is no bad time to go to the Galapagos Islands. Every month is a different story, and every month is a different animal breeding, a different species breeding. And so when you do decide to go, for those of you who haven't, work with your Wallace Pearson team, and if there's a particular animal you've always wanted to see, let us make sure we give you the greatest opportunity to see it. Because we hate it when you come down and say, I really wanted to see an albatross, and you're there at the wrong time of year. So let us help you get there when you need to be there. So we are actually, with Wallace Pearson, we are doing some wonderful free air offers at the moment to the Galapagos if you travel on certain dates. January through April, or August through, end of August through November. So check those out, because it's a great way to experience the Galapagos Islands. And we have 2 ships down there, the Endeavour, 96 guests, absolutely stunning. expedition vessel that gets you out there. It's a great platform for experiencing the place. And then we have the Islander, which is only 48 guests. So it gives you a more intimate experience as well. And if you want to stay down there a little longer, we do an amazing trip up to Machu Picchu. So you would fly back, go to Lima, we fly you to Cusco, down to the Sacred Valley, 2 days up at Machu Picchu, back to the Sacred Valley, into Cusco, all the while staying at beautiful Belmont properties. So it's a wonderful way to add on to your Galapagos experience, or you could just stay down there for an entire month and then you can go and do the Amazon. Now this is a trip that I absolutely adored. Do very many of you remember the movie The African Queen? Okay, it's one of my favourite movies. So this particular ship, the Delphine 2, is only 28 guests. Very intimate. We're on the Pacaya-Samiria Reserve up in the top regions, the very top little tributaries of the Amazon River, which means when you're on this boat, the river surrounds you. It nearly cradles you. So you get that feeling of the wildlife being right outside your window, that you are witnessing life on the river as it comes to life each morning. Because the Amazon really is about the culture and the people as much as it is the wildlife. It is a very thick jungle. So when you see wildlife here, it's a real treat. We will take you swimming with piranha. I can promise you they don't eat you, because I am testament that you can actually get out of the water. But it is a pretty cool experience. So think of the Amazon as somewhere just to experience more from watching life wake up every day and how they live as opposed to how we do. Now, Alaska, we've been up there for 42 years this year. It's pretty close to our heart, but this is somewhere we explore on very small boats, 100 guests or 62 guests. So our hope is that we're going to get you spray in your face while you're on a Zodiac. Okay? We don't want you back here looking at it with binoculars. We want you right up against the face of this glacier. That's the response we want when you're on one of our Zodiacs and you're up in Alaska with us. Now, this is the little critter I was talking about. So in Australia, we call this an otter. Otter. So we Aussies have a terrible tendency when a word has an ER on the end of making it an A, and when it has an A on the end of making it an ER. So I have for several years talked about otters and the fact that otters don't have blubber. And I was in Texas a few weeks ago, and this gentleman goes to me from the back of the room, he goes, "Excuse me, what's an otter?" And I'm like, that is an otter? And he goes, "Don't you mean an otter?" So ladies and gentlemen, this is an otter and it doesn't have blubber. So the reason I always want to show you an otter is that these little guys really are the bellwether of how healthy the water is in the places that we visit up around Alaska, because they don't have that surface fat. They have to keep their fur aerated and clean and dry, otherwise they get hypothermia and they pass away rather quickly. And so we want to make sure these guys are safe and healthy. We also have a wonderful nickname for them. They're fuzzy chainsaws. So you don't want to get too close to them. But we do several different itineraries in Alaska, and on these I wanted to show you where we go to give you an idea. But we start out in Seattle at the beginning of each season and work our way up the coast through Alert Bay, the misty fjords, all the way around to Sitka, spending time in those amazing glaciers in Glacier National Bay. That National Park, that is a stunning trip, a little longer than our usual expedition. We also do one on our smaller ship. Now, if you love culture, Indigenous culture, this is Haida Gwaii, or the Queen Charlotte Islands. This is the home of the totem pole. This is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it is renowned as the most marine biodiverse place in the Northwest. So if you want to add something really special to the beginning or end of the season, then this trip out to Haida Gwaii, and we are the only company with a ship of our size that is entrusted to meet with the Haida people, which is very important to us. So that's a great experience. But once we get up to Alaska, we're Sitka to Juneau. You'll notice none of the big cities in there. We don't want to make 1,000 new friends shopping. It's not what we do. We want to get you out to see whales bubble feeding, to have eagles overhead, to have you kayaking amongst pods of whales or out amongst the otters. So for us, it is all about the wildlife. If you're super active, this is one of our favorite new trips. This is for that person who wants to do longer hikes. You like a little bit of mountain biking. It's not for everybody. point-to-point kayaking, but this would be the trip for you. This allows you to really be active when you're up in Alaska with us. And then we also have a brand new trip that goes to the San Juan Islands and British Columbia. So think of this one in the fall. This is when the killer whales are really active out there around the San Juan Islands area. You get into Victoria, we spend some time with private art galleries and gardens, and then we head up for that First Nations experience in Alert Bay. And so for us, Alaska is a lot of different experiences, but always intimate and always about showcasing the culture today, of yesteryear, and also the wildlife. So we have a couple of different ships there. We have the Seabird Sea Lion, and we also have our wonderful new National Geographic Quest that launched this year. 100 guests, 22 balcony suites. She's a fantastic platform for exploring out in Alaska. So if you're thinking of going and you want that more intimate small ship experience, this is the beautiful ship to do it on. And her sister ship joins us this year. We're really proud. We've built both of these ships in the United States over in Washington State. So they're brand new. Then we head down the coast and we do Belize and Guatemala. So if you like a little snorkeling and diving, then this is the trip for you. So we go out on the Belize reefs. We then head up to Tepozte, Tikal, Yashta. If you have children or grandchildren who love Star Wars, or if you like me, you like a little bit of Star Wars, this is where they filmed some of the really iconic scenes in the jungles. Remember those funny little Ewok-y things? Yeah, that was up there. So this is a cool trip, then flying out of Guatemala City. Whales. For those of you who love whales, and I was speaking to someone today and they were saying, I've always wanted to see grey whales. Magdalena Bay on the Baja Peninsula is where grey whales come to give birth. So as they come up the coast, they'll come into Magdalena Bay. It's very shallow. The mothers will give birth, and what is really special is they will actually, if we're lucky, not always, but if we're really lucky, they will push their young to the surface to interact with us. Now, when you think the fact that we've nearly pushed these amazing animals to extinction, and they are still eager to introduce their youngest to us, it's a pretty special experience. And so we're out on the Zodiacs, we sit quietly, and they will actually come to us. But Baja Peninsula is absolutely stunning. You have Bridie's whales, humpback whales, false killer whales. You have mega pods of dolphins. This is all about that Sea of Cortez wildlife experience. You're snorkeling, you're hiking. Think of Baja if you want to get away somewhere that's really cool for wildlife. That's another wonderful place that we've been for many years. Now, South Pacific, we're kind of excited because Angie and Angela are actually joining us in the South Pacific this year, which is really cool. We have been going there for many years. Sven spent nearly 3 months sailing this region earlier last year. But we have 5 different trips. And the first one starts on Easter Island and goes out through Pitcairn. You remember Mutiny on the Bounty? Well, if you've ever wanted to visit with the most dysfunctional family on the planet, that's where you need to go. The history of the descendants of the Bounty is just amazing, to sit with them and have a chat with them. Then we go out through the Tuamotus. This is great snorkeling and diving, and we have a dive master and his partner on board, so you can dive straight from the ship. The second trip goes up to the Marquesas Island, which is famous for its amazing stone tikis and cultural experiences. We have another trip that goes up into the Southern Line Islands, some of the best diving in the world. This is where Enrique Sala of the National Geographic goes to use as a baseline for reef health around the world. So it's a really cool place to see. We then have another trip that goes all the way out to Fiji and Samoa, and then the trip that Angie and Angela are on, which is closer here to the Society Islands around Bora Bora. But this is not just about the beaches. This is about snorkeling and diving and being out with naturalists, ornithologists, historians, researchers. It's looking at the undersea world. It's about the amazing people of this region, and it's about the history. And we have along with us people like Jacob Edgar, and Jacob is an ethnomusicologist. So an ethnomusicologist studies the musical roots of those people and how their music has evolved. You've got Christina Thompson from Harvard, and her whole studies have been in human migration across the Pacific, so you get to sit across the table from a cool person like that. Dr. Joe McGuinness, one of the most renowned divers in the world, has sent down equipment onto the Titanic, built the first underwater base under the North Pole. These are really super cool people to sit at dinner with. Our very handsome and very nice dive instructor, Vincent Truchet, and his partner, and someone like Valerie Taylor. If you ever read Jaws by Peter Benchley, Valerie Taylor was one of the people he worked with because she is one of the preeminent shark divers in the world from Australia. You know, remember those chainmail suits that divers use? She was the test dummy for those. So she's got some pretty cool stories to tell. So they're amazing experiences, and I know that Angie and Angela would love to share their experiences and share that they're travelling down with us with their families. So you'll be travelling on the National Geographic Orion, which is an absolutely stunning 102 guest expedition vessel, beautiful ship. I know there's some folks in here that have travelled on her. Lovely staterooms, balcony suites, and once again, don't let that word expedition make you think that you're not going to be comfy. You are. But I had someone ask me last night, they're like, well, how big is my room? We kind of talked about square footage, and I said, but honestly, if you're in Antarctica and in the middle of the day you're sitting in your room, we're going to be worried that you're dead. Right? Because that's not why you're there. So we want you out. These rooms are beautiful, wonderfully appointed, but we want to put all that space, the extra space, into ensuring you can see further and deeper and into what you're there to see, which is the wildlife. So the Arctic. I know I've got some polar bear lovers here. We see polar bears in a number of different places. We do an amazing trip down the coast of Norway every year. We have it once a year. Tends to sell out a good 8 to 12 months in advance. So if you're thinking of Norway, please do think of us, but think about it rather quickly. But then we head up to Svalbard. And Svalbard is up in the Arctic Circle, and so we're up here on the boat. You're seeing big males on the ice, you're seeing mothers and cubs, you're seeing Arctic fox, Arctic hare, Arctic tern. You're hiking when the tundra's just waking up at the beginning of the season. It is an amazing experience to see these bears in their natural habitat. But then we head down and we do circumnavigations of Iceland. Places like Isjafjorda, Flatey Island, which is this remarkable little island, no cars, a beautiful old church. That was where Eric the Red set off to go over to Greenland. So there's all this history, but you're travelling the very edge of Iceland, seeing places like Surtsey, which was only born in 1963 from volcanic eruptions. So it opens up a much broader picture of what Iceland is about. But then we head over to the west coast of Greenland and we go all the way up to the mouth of the Northwest Passage. So this is walrus and polar bear and once again the Inuit history. And when we get all the way to Ellesmere, that's where we start to see the remnants of the Thule people, who were the precursor to the Inuit. So you've got some really cool history all through this region. One of the new trips we have in 2019 is going to be up into the Russian Far East. And these are brand new. They were announced last week. So I kind of wanted to spend a little bit of time on these. We have 3 different trips from Seward all the way down through the Aleutians, across through Atu, into Petropavlovsk, up through the Kamchatka Peninsula before ending in Nome. So that one is amazing wildlife, brown bear on the Kamchatka Peninsula. We then do from Seward, and I'll show you the map a little closer. So that's that first trip all the way around and into Providenia. I practice these in my sleep. The next one's even better. We go to the Pribilovs. Try saying that 3 times fast. So we go from Seward down through Katmai National Park all the way into a wonderful little island called Unalaska and up through the Pribilovs and back around to Nome. But the one that I'm really excited about is a trip that we're taking up into Wrangel Island. Now, Wrangel Island is renowned as the most prolific polar bear denning place on Earth. It is also the last place that woolly mammoths were found before extinction. And so often at the end of the snowy or the cold season, they will find new bones sticking out of the ground, tusks from woolly mammoths. So I love polar bears, but you throw a woolly mammoth in top of a polar bear and you've got me. So to me, this is kind of such an exciting trip for us. So it's Nome, up around the edge of the Russian Far East here, and then all the way up to Wrangel Island and back. These trips were released last week. One of these is already completely sold out. So we have about 8 rooms left for 2019, but it is an absolutely stunning experience up around Wrangel Island. So once again, culture, the wildlife, all of that Inuit experience. Antarctica. Now I know there's people here that have been to Antarctica with us. Where are they? There we go. So this is the one place on earth I will tell you, when you go, it's harder to explain how spectacular it is once you've been there. Before you go, it's very easy to say, oh, we go to the peninsula and it's way down, it's the southernmost continent on the planet, it's the driest continent on the planet, it's owned by nobody. It is this amazing place that we get to go to. And yes, we cross the Drake Passage and we come all the way down here. And we have either a short trip, which is the peninsula. We fly down to Buenos Aires or Santiago, depending on the ship you're on. We then charter the flight down to Ushuaia. We cross into the Drake Passage and we spend our time down here on the peninsula. I always get the question, what's the Drake Passage like? It can be as flat as that table. It can also be 30-foot waves. These ships are built specifically for crossing this water, and they're particularly comfortable. So you're in safe hands. We've been going there for 52 years. It's what we live for. I can tell you, being on the ship, when we do get a flat trip across, all we get is grumblings from people because, well, that wasn't very exciting. And all the crew is like, yes. The other thing that's really hard is you're going to ask for an itinerary for Antarctica. And we'll give you a general guideline, but no one can tell you what you're going to see and do because everything is ice dependent, weather dependent. It depends on if the Lamar Channel is open or if it closes right behind you. So we always have plan A through Z. And sometimes the very best day on an expedition is when all that goes to hell in a handbasket and you end up with a plan that you never had before. Because that's true exploration. And those are the days you get to do something that no one else has ever done before you. So those are the days that we long for, okay? But Antarctica, you've got 4 months, all very different. But firstly, let me just show you the longer trip. So if you want to do the Granddaddy, you go all the way to the peninsula, out to South Georgia, and the fort, all the way up here into the Falklands, Port Stanley. That's 24 days. And that's going to what we call the Serengeti of the Southern Ocean. And the reason for that is the amazing number of penguins that you're going to experience.
Welcome to Antarctica! That's gonna be worse.
So when you look at Antarctica as a destination, here's the thing you've got to keep in mind. There are 4 months that we're down there in the high summer season, November through February. So if you go in November, this is when you've still got all that great sea ice. The photography is black and white penguins on white ice. It's just absolutely beautiful and clean. And you get to go skiing on the sea ice. To be able to say you've been skiing on the 7th continent is pretty cool, right? We go cross-country skiing.
Even kayaking.
Even kayaking, yes. And then as you move into December, penguins cannot nest on ice. They have to nest on dirt and rocks. So they have to wait for all those little hills to start melting. So they start to melt, they start to fight over rocks, they steal pebbles from each other, they build their nests, and by mid-December all their little eggs are there and they're starting to hatch. So now you've got white snow, but you've also got these nice muddy patches with penguins running around, little babies poking out. So if you want baby penguins, mid-December to mid-January. Because by the end of mid-January, they're starting to lose their baby feathers and become a little bit more like young grown-ups, and they're great fun to watch play. And then as you move into February, that's when you get the great whale migration down in Antarctica. You still see the crab-eater seals, you still see all the other seal species, the bird life, but you get a very different experience on land. By the end of the summer, a lot of it is dirt and stone, not that white sheer look. So think about what is it you want to see. Think February is a little bit like Aspen mud season. Okay, that's the feel it is. So you want to make sure you're going at the time that is what you want to see down in Antarctica. But if you go down to South Georgia, you'll also always see baby penguins. You'll always see the king baby penguins. We do that on the Explorer, 148 guests, or on the National Geographic Orion, 102 guests. They're both built specifically for Arctic and Antarctic travel. And this is the experience. Adelies, Gentoos, getting out and seeing the king penguins in South Georgia, getting up close and having a National Geographic photographer to travel with makes all the difference, because when you're talking about white balance, white and black penguins on white snow, it's very easy for all those photos to turn out looking grey. So having that expertise with you makes a huge, huge difference. But the wildlife down there is stunning. And so we will get you out kayaking, and it's really easy. We have an amazing platform built between two zodiacs. You don't even get your feet wet. We just scoot you out and off you go. And to be paddling in amongst icebergs and have penguins porpoising around you is really, really quite special. We will get you onto the continent to walk and have that continental landing. There have been times where we have actually had to get out in dry suits and chip ice away from a landing place to get people in. So we will go to every effort to get you where you need to go. This is South Georgia. So those are king penguins. I do often get the question about emperor penguins. Emperor penguins actually breed in the winter and they're inland. So we really don't see a lot of emperors. We will often see ones or twos out on the ice floe, but you will not see huge numbers of emperors down on the peninsula when you're there. Just good to be aware of. But you also have the history. Shackleton, Scott, Amundsen. And we get the chance to go to where Shackleton's buried. We pull out a lovely bottle of Scotch whiskey, have a little toast to Mr. Shackleton. And then we also get to look back at our state-of-the-art ship with hot meals, warm showers, and realise that he was down there in a wooden dinghy. So we're kind of happy that we're there now and not back when Shackleton was there. But to learn the history of the region is really quite special. Last but not least, and definitely not these are definitely not the only places we go to. We go to a lot of other places as well. We have just announced this week that we're going back to Egypt. We were there for a lot of years before the Arab Spring. We had our security team over there just recently, and we feel that we're comfortable going back. And these are going to start in October. It's an amazing ship called the Oberoi Philae, only 42 guests. We're going to be flying into Cairo, private transfers to the Ritz Nile, going out to see the Egyptian Museum, the Coptic Christian history and heritage, the mosques of the area, then flying down on our own charter flight down to Luxor, boarding the Oberoi, spending our time on the river, the Valley of the Kings, the Valley of the Queens, a private day trip up to Abu Simbel, back to Aswan, and then flying back and spending time at the Mena House, which is beautiful rooms that look straight out on the Sphinx and the pyramids, with our own guides taking us through that area as well. So this is a really cool experience that we hope that you'll share with us, but this is the ship. Those are your entry-level rooms. So they're pretty special, and then your executive suites. So she was for 100 guests, and she's now been changed to only take 42 guests on these amazing experiences. The other thing we've done is we have prepaid all the photography permits so that where you are allowed to take photos inside the tombs, we've already taken care of that for you. And we'll have one of our Lindblad National Geographic photographers travelling with you to ensure you get the best photography of your life. So we're kind of excited to be heading back that way. And on top of that, we're adding an extension that you can take over to Jordan, to Petra, to go and see some of the amazing Roman ruins over here, which are absolutely stunning, and up to the Dead Sea. So that's a little look into what we do around the world. We enjoy what we do. If we've got time, do I have time for another quick story? Okay, so when we go to Antarctica, and the ladies, you'll appreciate this for the humour. Gentlemen, you'll appreciate this because you'll all have been there. So we have a lecture on icebergs. We talk about the fact that there's 3 types of icebergs. There's growlers, bergy bits, and icebergs. These are real icebergs. These are tabular bergs. Some of them can be the size of Manhattan. So as we're heading across the channel, the Drake Passage, we know when we're going to start seeing ice because we have all this great equipment that has forward-facing sonar, so we know when it's coming. And we say at our briefing, so the first person to see an iceberg of any description gets a bottle of wine. The ladies all sit there and go, hang on a minute, isn't alcohol included in this trip? And all the guys go, a free bottle of wine? So we're sitting at dinner, and the captain comes in, he looks across at us and he goes, just, you know, the heads up, we're about to start hitting a few little bits of ice. And from the back of the restaurant, like half an hour later, we hear, iceberg! Well, the whole idea was it was the first man to make it to the bridge, which is at the complete other end of the ship. So every man in that restaurant got up and they basically fought each other out through the double doors, and all you could hear was laughter and get out of the way, and as they all ran towards the bridge. Every woman sitting at the table just looked straight to the center of the table and went, but there's wine on the table. And that's the kind of community we have by day 2. So you can imagine by the end of day 14 or 24, these people really are a community of like-minded guests traveling together. It's just a lot of fun. And to be able to have this shared experience is just pretty amazing. And I do have, it's about 2.5 minutes long, but we were just down in Antarctica a couple of weeks ago, and we captured on film for the very first time in its entirety killer whales collaboratively hunting a seal. I'm going to give you a heads up, it ends well. So please don't look at me with the look of, please don't make me see something getting eaten. I'm not going to make you watch something getting eaten. But I would love to share this video because it is rather quite special.
People come to Antarctica for the wildlife, but today on board the National Geographic Explorer, we found something spectacular. A pod of killer whales, spy hopping in the distance, narrowing in on their target, a crab-eater seal upon the ice.
Poor innocent seal sitting on the ice, and the intelligent pod of, I guess it was 4 whales, were systematically knocking him off the ice, and he was fast as heck and was scooting back onto the ice every time.
What they're doing is a tactic that is found only amongst these species, using their conjoined effort to wave wash the seal off the ice.
After several attempts of trying to wash the crab-eater seal off of the ice floe, the killer whales tried to crack the ice into smaller pieces.
And they chipped away and chipped away until they destroyed the ice.
The ice floe that the seal is upon is growing smaller and smaller, but it has escaped and found another ice floe on the starboard side.
They made a run, and as soon as they made the run and their backs were turned, he made a dash perpendicular to where they were.
He got away, man. Can't believe it. Took off running.
The group decided to name the seal Kevin, and Kevin got away. So it was good news for all of us and a great time on board.
This is truly one of the most amazing encounters any of us have witnessed in the wild.
I have no idea how excited everyone was that Kevin wasn't dinner. He actually got away. But for us, that's the special days that we didn't do something else, because 2.5 hours of watching that, there's only probably a billionth of a percentile of people in the world that will ever see that activity in person, right? When you think that only 40,000 people go to Antarctica in any given year out of the entire population of this planet, and then that one ship of 140 guests got to see that. That's pretty cool. And so I hope you enjoyed that. But thank you for taking a little peek into our world and what we do. We're very passionate about it. We love to share the planet.